We are studying the 6 human needs without looking at the wall. Those who were here yesterday, who can name any of them or all of them? Let me see any hands come up. Yes.
The most striking too was certainty and uncertainty, because they were like opposite, and that was
Great.
striking.
Okay. Can you tell me, and anyone can chime in, tell me what certainty means. You can give me bullet points, you can give me a sentence, just in a condensed way, what it means to you. And
From what I took with me yesterday is like a framework where you have predictability. So you're doing things because you know the outcome. It might not be a good thing, but this is familiar, you know what to do, you know how to go.
right.
So you go with that. And the other one, the opposite, uncertainty, is when you're really striving for variety.
Okay, before we go to that, let's go a little bit further with certainty. Does anybody have anything to add to that? What you remember from yesterday? About certainty. Were you here yesterday?
No.
Okay, so I'm just going to stick to the people who were here. I'm sorry.
Is it certainty if you're too certain about things, then it becomes boring?
Yeah, that's when we move to variety.
Right.
So, okay, I'm going to rewind even though. So there's 6 human needs. Every human being on the planet has them. Whether you're a farm worker or a princess and any kind of individual in between. These are universal needs. They're not wants, they're not desires. They're actually needs. And what I'm presenting is what they are and how we tend to meet them both in positive ways and negative ways in our lives, to try and transform the negative ways into positive ways, to begin to identify what are your top 2 needs and see how you meet them, what vehicles you use to meet them, so you can create a more holistic, happy, healthy life for yourself in Krishna consciousness. So that's the sum of that. So certainty is the first one, and that's great. So there are, yeah, right. So, okay. Experiencing pleasure over pain, knowing that my home will be waiting for me at the end of the day, knowing that the roof is not going to fall over my head. If I'm sick, I can get medical care. Just basic human sense of certainty so that we're not living in fear. Got it? Okay, so now let's go to the next one, which is uncertainty or variety. And like Prabhu is saying, if life is totally predictable, if I know today and tomorrow and 5 years from now and 10 years from now exactly what's going to happen, I am so bored. And we gave the example of working in a factory for 16 hours a day. Life gets really boring. We all get bored, and variety is the spice of life. We gave the example of Prabhupada, this beautiful quote where he said, he'll write for a while, then he'll play mridanga, then he'll chant japa. So everybody needs some variety, and there's healthy kinds of variety and unhealthy. Healthy would be, learning how to cook new things for Krishna, or learning how to make new outfits for Krishna, or doing something healthy and productive with other people. Going to this festival is a lot of variety in your average daily life. But then there are unhealthy ways that we meet these needs. So an unhealthy way for uncertainty would be extramarital affairs, or, gotta catch up here, taking intoxication, or being attached to the internet and spending too much time on Facebook or in this or in that. I'm going very quickly, but I think everybody gets the idea that we are often meeting our needs for variety in potentially unhealthy ways, and we had a long discussion about it yesterday. Is that good, or anybody wants to add or subtract or a question? Okay. Let me go back to the certainty, though, because we didn't talk about healthy and unhealthy ways. So healthy ways to meet certainty. having a good marriage, having a good job, deciding not to get married. For some people, that's certainty. Educating your children, living in a safe neighborhood, committing to sadhana, taking shelter of a spiritual master, studying Srila Prabhupada's books. We can meet a lot of our needs for certainty this way. And then unhealthy ways is hoarding things, having too many material possessions. A lot of people do that. They meet a lot of certainty that way by having lots of stuff, but it's not good for us, especially as spiritual people. It's not good for us. Maintaining a bad relationship just because we're afraid to let go, because it's comfortable, we don't want to be alone. We're accustomed to this kind of unhealthiness, so it meets some kind of sense of familiarity. We do a lot of things that aren't healthy for us. Even if it meets certainty, it's not a healthy kind of certainty. 16 bad rounds. Maintaining a bad habit. We all have bad habits, and we just keep repeating that behavior because it's familiar, because it's comfortable. There may be other reasons we repeat it, but that's one of them. Okay. So, we're going to go to significance. We all need to feel important and validated and acknowledged, and some people do this in very healthy ways, and some people do it in very unhealthy ways. The example I gave yesterday of the unhealthy, let me go to the healthy way first, was like raising standards, or being a great provider for my family, or setting out to achieve a goal that I can use in sharing Krishna consciousness, or something that's going to nourish my own spiritual life, or my own intellectual growth, or my own physical and emotional health. Of course, chanting good rounds and having good sadhana can make you feel really good about yourself. And developing Vaishnava qualities, and of course helping other people become Krishna conscious. Now, as far as negative ways, I gave the example yesterday of Donald Trump. I said he is the, quintessential human being who has such a distorted, inflated, unhealthy need for significance that he'll practically say anything, do anything, just to get acknowledged. And we brought up, somebody brought up the term narcissism, being a narcissist, which also is like the culmination of having an unhealthy sense of significance, that it's all about me, and I become totally unable to be empathic or compassionate when I'm just thinking about my own significance. Sometimes we maintain problems because we get a lot of attention. People need to help us, and that makes us feel significant. We compare ourselves to others, and that makes us, like we talked about gossip. When we put people down, it makes us feel better about ourselves. And that's one of the reasons we do it. And that, of course, stems a lot of times from having a sense of insecurity, lack of self-confidence, which is a whole huge topic in itself. Okay. Then the fourth, okay, we're making good time. So we've got certainty, uncertainty or variety, significance, and now we've come to love and connection. And we discussed yesterday how every human being needs connection, and every human being strives for love. In our modern culture, what we've made love out to be is kind of this romantic sense of connecting with someone and them becoming our soulmate. Whereas in traditional cultures, your soulmate was actually reserved for God. And God is the true soulmate. And so what we find today, and also they had very extended families, so connection was in abundance, because you had so many relatives within your circle of community that there was a lot of variety you got and a lot of certainty. and a lot of significance and a lot of connection and love. But today, families are so split apart. We have these nuclear families. People find themselves very isolated. And we've just created that there's going to be one other human being that is going to fulfill all of my desires and all of my needs. And that is, of course, setting yourself up for complete, utter disappointment. And I think everybody in this room has either experienced it or seen other people they know experience it, or seen it on television or here or there. So it's a myth. So that love really can only be fully replaced by Krishna, and I think by Krishna's devotees. I think that the kinds of relationships that devotees have are on a totally different platform, and there is a spiritual love which is so much deeper than a kind of romantic love. Not that that can't be there, but it's not going to be the kind of fulfillment that many people, I think especially young people, think it's going to be. Okay. I'm skipping the code words because we don't have time for everything. So positive ways to meet our need for love and connection. Doing what we're doing here is being social and engaging in spiritual activities together, connecting to God, having strong sadhana, helping other people, being kind, being courteous, being supportive and non-judgmental, and of course taking care of our family and getting a lot of reciprocation that way. And may not just be our small little immediate blood family, but our family of devotees. So that brings us up to speed with the first 4 human needs: certainty, variety, significance, love, and connection. Any questions before we go on? Yes?
So you just said that we don't actually have a soulmate.
So what you're trying to say is that the only soulmate we can have is the devotion we have for Krishna, right?
Well, what I'm saying is Krishna is our ultimate soulmate. Yes, Krishna is our soulmate. And then Krishna will send us human beings, other people, to assist us along the way in achieving, the ultimate goal of reconnecting with Krishna, reunifying with Krishna. And, some people who have spouses do feel, in a sense, that we are soulmates. But we are soulmates together trying to connect to the ultimate soul, and that's Krishna. Because there's this sense the naive sense that this one person can meet all of my needs, can fulfill all of my desires, and only Krishna can do that. So when we set these really high expectations from another person, you're just absolutely going to be disappointed, and so will they. So yeah, Krishna is our ultimate soulmate, and he sends lots of people to support us on our journey. Yes, Gora. And then, okay. 1 second, and then no, that's okay. We'll pass the mic to you. No problem.
I remember reading a quote from Srila Prabhupada somewhere. Well, a couple of statements. He was saying the material world is such a difficult place that every man requires someone to assist him, and vice versa. In another place, Prabhupada said, there's no man that can completely satisfy any woman, and there's no woman that can completely satisfy any man. That just brings things to your point that although we can be soulmates in our approach to Krishna, ultimately, Krishna is the only personality that will fulfill all of our desires.
Thank you. Could I have some water, please, from somewhere?
There's bottles, right?
Oh, perfect. Okay. Thank you. Okay, perfect. Go ahead.
Can you say why having a strong sadhana fulfills our need to love?
Yeah, because we're connecting with Krishna more. It's repeated there twice, but connecting to God through our sadhana, through japa. When you're in the advanced stages of Krishna consciousness, chanting is being with Krishna. I think most of us can't claim to be there yet, but that's when you're really connecting with Krishna in a completely real and total and whole way. So that's when you're getting connection and love with the Supreme. Yes? Just,
It's also
yeah.
love for yourself.
Chanting is also love for yourself, because you're nurturing your spiritual life. So you're also loving yourself. And the holy name is Krishna's love itself. So you're receiving his love. You're chanting back, giving love, and you're also nourishing yourself. So it's only love.
So, well, that brings up a good point, because sometimes we want to connect with others, but that opportunity is not there. So then we find vehicles or things to help us connect with ourselves. And that can be good, but a lot of times people find very bad ways to connect. And what they're not able to connect with others, so they find other things to connect with themselves, but they use bad vehicles. So chanting would be a really good way to connect with yourself and with Krishna, as opposed to, surfing the internet. Or, much worse things than that. Let's see. Having unmanageable problems or depression. We talked about that a lot yesterday. Giving into unhappiness and bad feelings, and actually just wallowing in that and sitting there because you feel a kind of deep connection with yourself, but it's not healthy. And we talked about there's like clinical depression, and that's when someone needs to be under psychiatric care, and then there's your garden variety of depression where everybody sometimes just gets depressed. But what do we do with that? Do we just go down the rabbit hole? Do we just stay in that crazy eight of, or do we, I gave the example yesterday of doing depression. We do depression just like we do happiness. So what do we do once we have it? So these are unhealthy ways to connect with ourselves, as opposed to the healthy ways, which is like the sadhana for one. There are lots of other ways too. And if there's time, you're going to all get a chance. I have paper and pens to write, to just sort of take stock, do a little index thing in your mind with your heart, and see where you're at and how are you connecting and doing all the other things with yourself. Positive vehicles, negative vehicles. So I'm hoping we'll have time for that, which is why I'm kind of going quickly. Anything? Yes?
But do you get people sometimes who they can't really connect with others, or they don't find they can't experience love, and then in that context, they maybe like it could be an exit, like the spiritual practice also.
That's a good question. There are people like that, and there's usually a reason. Well, actually, there's always a reason, and it's usually something that happened from a distant time in their life, usually as a child, some traumatic event that happened that caused them so much pain in loving and connecting with other people that they created like a safety net, a protective armor, if you will. And so for them, it's just not safe. So for them, it feels more safe to just connect with themselves, but they can't connect with other people and they can't love. And so then you have to work on that with them. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Okay. So we're going to go on then to number 5. Growth. When we stop growing, we die. Anything that you want to remain in your life, your money, your health, your relationship, your happiness, your Krishna consciousness, must be cultivated, developed, expanded. Otherwise, it will degenerate. We need to constantly develop emotionally, intellectually, and spiritually. In order to truly fulfill the need to grow, one needs to find something to serve that is larger than oneself. This gives us continuous drive to grow because we're growing in order to give something to others. Code words for growth. Expand, learn, increase, change, build, develop, perfect, serve, give, improve. Positive ways to fulfill the need for growth. Learning a new skill or language. Reading, listening to, and studying Krishna Katha. Trying out new recipes to prepare for Krishna. Teaching a new topic. Those are some examples, but there's unlimited ways that a person can choose to grow materially and spiritually. Negative ways to fulfill the need for growth. Ransacking a third world country's resources to increase your company's profits.
It's called capitalism. Globalization, capitalism.
Yeah. Creating the atom bomb. Yeah, you grow when you do that, but it's a very negative way to contribute to your growth and everyone else's. Earning a promotion at the expense of others. Trying to get a position you are not qualified for. I guess that's kind of the same. They're similar. Yeah, so anybody have any questions or comments on positive aspects, negative aspects, or something to do with growth? Yes?
Well, in our Vaishnava culture, we grow by giving Krishna to others, including our own immediate family and immediate associates or fellow devotees. So you can grow by helping others grow.
Beautiful.
A spiritual altruism.
Yep, that's great. Spiritual altruism.
Well, here I am. I'm going to say, there's a great Saint Francis who said, it is only by giving that you can receive.
Right.
Not the opposite.
Right. That's going to come up in the next need, but it's true. That's how we grow. We grow by growing others. Especially as a parent, I know that so much. That, when you help your child grow, you grow so much. It just happens naturally. Yeah.
I heard from the senior devoted that when we take responsibility for this or that service, this is how we can grow, because I was complaining that there are challenges and difficulties when you take responsibility for this or that service, and she told me, but you should be happy, this is how you grow.
That's such a good one, taking responsibility. When we take accountability and responsibility for anything in our lives, small, medium, and big, there's immediate growth. You feel it immediately, and it continues. So thank you. That is so good. I'm going to add that. That's a great one.
Do you mind elaborating on how we can grow on our own and the role of a coach or spiritual master to pinpoint areas where we need to grow? Because, I don't know the areas that would be beneficial, for example, for me to develop so I can be a better devotee. I might be thinking about the skill set or something, but the guidance in growth.
So I'm not 100% sure I understand what you're asking, but I think what you're asking is that it's good to have somebody who can guide you, who can even see yourself better than you can see yourself, or to help you see yourself better, who can then, as a team, you collaborate with that person to begin to realize where it is that you need to grow more. So I think that's a question, and that's my answer too, is that you just need to be under the guidance and under the care, and sometimes it's friends that help too. It doesn't always have to be a senior person. It can be, but it can also just be peers. You can just say, hey, give me your honest opinion, your loving, constructive criticism of where you think my weaknesses are. Where do you think I need to grow? You'll probably get a really honest answer. Maybe even, yeah.
Also, one other way to answer this question, you're asking help in knowing where you need to grow because you don't know. So I will ask you the question, well, if you did know, what would you say? You don't have to, you don't have to answer now.
That's what a coach would do, or a senior
You actually do know.
mentor.
You do more than, I think you know more than you think you do. Like, what's a big obstacle, or what's an area you need to grow? So I think I'm not really clear. But then I say, well, but if you did know, what would you say? So just, that's something you can meditate on. Like, kind of like, you're up against the wall, you have to tell me, or I shoot you. And then you'll start to see. Can I say one more thing? There's an interesting exercise. You take out a sheet of paper and you put a question on top. Like your question would be, where do I need to grow, or what do I need to get about? Let's say one of those questions. And in this exercise, you have to come up with 20 answers. So you'll come up with 3 or 4 very quickly. And then, you'll get through to like 12 or 13, and then you'll be like, that's it. But the key is to go to 20, because the best answers are the last ones. Because they were the deepest. They weren't so obvious, and you had to dig. And then they weren't the ones that you were seeing. And that's why they said do 20. And you can do 20 every day of the same question until you say, oh, this is the answer. So that's the beautiful exercise. It just enacts Krishna as super soul, subconscious, intuition, all of this. So you can try that.
Thank you. Anything else?
Can you go back to the previous slide, please?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Learning a new skill or language.
So a top holistic psychiatrist in America, Dr. Amen in New York City, says, as soon as you stop learning, your brain starts dying. This is a whole talk he gave on how to avoid Alzheimer's. And for some of us it's relevant because we're up there in our 60s. And some of us may not be surrounded by loving family members or even friends. We may be living isolated. That's a whole other topic. But I'm saying, who wants to end up in a senior citizen's home, where, I don't know, maybe people might start feeding you meat, or, we need to hold on to what we have. And so this one neurologist, I forget his name, was saying, always, if you know how to play an instrument, well, learn a new song. And, if you're a writer, then write a new book. And he was giving the example of one lady. She was elderly, and she hadn't talked to anybody in months. And he got the idea. He got this idea. He said, Mrs. Smith, who's a better composer, Mozart or Beethoven? And she kind of looked at him like, what? And he asked her the same question. Who is a better composer, Mozart or Beethoven? And for the first time in months, she spoke and she said, what kind of stupid question is that? And he got her speaking, and he explained to the family members that because she'd been absorbed in music for so many years, that was her passion. And so he told the family members, whenever you go to see your mom, talk to her about music, because that's going to bring her back. So anyways.
No, it's relevant. I think earlier in Variety, one of the positive ways was to learn an instrument. And it was also connect with yourself, learn an instrument. But it's the point. Reading, writing, music, dancing, learning shlokas. These are things that whoever's in this room is still young. You should be doing that. Any or all of those things, because you will carry them with you later. And we don't want to get in a whole thing of Alzheimer's, but I did see a really interesting thing where this man had Alzheimer's. He was older, 60s, 70s, and he couldn't remember any of the people, any of his family members, but he could sit down. He was a musician, and he was a professor of music. He could sit down at the piano, and he could play these beautiful pieces of all the classic composers without any effort. And that was the light, at the end of the tunnel for him and for his family members too. It just lit him up. and it came from youth. So when you start to lose your other faculties, whatever you did when you were young, all the practice that you put into those skills, especially the ones that require creativity and the synapses of the brain to keep working and be activated, that's what you'll take with you. So it's very important. Reading, writing, music, learning shlokas, all those things, you will keep growing. And then when you stop growing, you can use that to stay growing in whatever capacity you have.
And conscious. I've said before, you can become Krishna conscious. First be conscious.
Conscious.
We have to hold on
Yeah.
to whatever consciousness we have,
Yeah.
otherwise life isn't going to be fun.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, anything else? We'll go and move on. Okay, so the final sixth human need, according to this system, is contribution. Contribution means to go beyond our own needs and to give to others. A life is incomplete without the sense that one is making a contribution to others or to a cause. We're wired to feel good about contributing and using our gifts and talents in service to others. It is in the nature of human beings to want to give back, to leave a mark on the world. A fireman sometimes knows he might die to save another's life, but he does it. So, of course, Srila Prabhupada, he didn't have any, human needs, but he's like the crown jewel of someone who just contributed and gave and gave and gave. And then he gave to us the responsibility and the privilege to give and give and give and just to keep going on and on and on. And the beauty is that it's natural. It's not just religious people who want to give. All kinds of human beings love giving. It is the most satisfying thing, right? Better to give than to receive. So contribution comes quite naturally, and we've been endowed with a kind of legacy of so many different ways, joyful, incredible, ecstatic ways to be able to contribute to society. So we're very blessed in that way. Code words for contribution: sharing, sacrifice, giving, serving, selfless. Positive ways to fulfill the need for contribution: giving time to community service, planting trees, serving cows, writing a book, giving to one's children, sharing what you know, learn in order to give, preaching in various ways. Okay, I'll stop here before we go to the negative ways. Any questions or comments? Yes.
So I was wondering about that a few weeks ago. Is it actually like a bad thing? Like, let's say I am in a bus, or not necessarily like in a bus, but I am in a position where I could save, like, let's say 5 children from dying, and if I save them, I'm gonna have to die. Is it a bad thing to just walk away from that and not sacrifice myself? Because it's really hard to say, like, you want to do the right thing, but then again, you're like, it's not the right thing.
Well, I'll let them answer, because I know Mahatma's probably got 100 million answers for that. But I'll just say, if you're a Kshatriya, you wouldn't think twice about it. You would just do it. But if you're not, then, it's about what's more important, my self-preservation or the preservation of these children. So I don't know, it's an interesting question. Oh, come on, you have an answer for everything.
It's like, I'll get the answer, but what would I do if I was in that situation?
Yeah. I guess it depends. Who are the children? I don't know.
You gave the right answer. Ultimately, as a devotee, we evaluate it in terms of the pros and cons of our Krishna conscious, their Krishna conscious, their life. These are tough questions. Sometimes you can see, well, maybe it's just their karma, and I have nothing to do with it.
It's kind of an instinctual thing, too, and everybody responds in a different way depending on who we are.
You have an answer?
Is it all life equal?
But it could be a spontaneous thing. I mean, I remember one time we were going to Boston for some festival, And on the way there was a big accident. Some lady from Quebec had fallen asleep with her daughter and her son, and the car had crashed, and we're driving down, and I just, okay, stopped, and I ran out. And I learned a little bit first aid, so I was there and helping them before the firemen could come, make sure that, disconnect the battery, things like that, so the car doesn't catch on fire and things like that. So it becomes a spontaneous thing. You're not even thinking about it. You're just in the moment, later you think, oh, maybe I should have done this or that or whatever, but so it's really just a spontaneous thing that happens. Of course, if you're mentally prepared for it, then it's better, because you can. But I wanted to bring the point that this morning the purport was a little bit in regards to this, that the human nature is to try to help, but it's a perverted reflection of actually serving, like the gopis are serving Krishna. So we like to do good to others because we're all parts of Krishna. But the ultimate good we want to do is really, the ultimate connection is with Krishna. But we do connect with the community and society. We form clubs and also because it makes us feel good. But ultimately it's the perverted reflection of that love that or that connection we're supposed to make with Krishna.
Hare Krishna. The question he posed, of course, that's the basic morality question in class, is what to do in that situation, because there's no one answer. I know two situations with devotees. One was at Three Rivers. You may remember our god sister. She jumped down into a ditch because she had a German Shepherd that fell in, and she didn't think twice. She jumped down in to save it. I was in Kurukshetra. Prabhupada took myself and Brahmananda there for a preaching engagement. And it was very hot. It was summertime. You can imagine in Kurukshetra. So after we got there, there was a big irrigation channel. Not big, there was an irrigation channel which was made out of concrete, V-shaped. So the water was running through it like 20 miles an hour. Ramananda and I didn't think twice. We just jumped in. It was like 6 foot wide at the furthest part in the center, maybe 3 foot. But down about 100 feet was it was like a falls, but it was all made with concrete stands to just slow the water down. So we jumped in very quickly. We were going to drown. And we both managed in different spots to grab hold of like wires that were just there. So he grabbed one up that way, I grabbed one, and I pulled myself out. And he was hanging on. He couldn't pull himself out because he was very heavy. He didn't have the ability to even pull himself out. So as soon as I got out, of course, I ran over to him. And with the look on his face, dying, he's saying, "Pull me out." And I'm looking at this person, he's literally twice my weight, maybe more. And I said, "I can't." And I said, "Just hold on." And I went down to where this very dangerous looking place was, where the falls was. And right before it was a little concrete stairs, 4 steps. So I went back and I said, "I'm going to go down there and you let go. And I'll catch you right before the falls." And of course he doesn't want to let go because he's secure as he can be, as far as he knows. And he's saying, "Pull me out." And I'm saying, "I can't pull you out." I said, "You have to trust me." I said, "Just let go." So he didn't have a choice because I was determined that, this was the best thing. And it wasn't a thoughtful thing. Well, even that was just, super soul. So I went to the edge and I said, let go, it's okay. And I see this huge person coming down. It was just like, and then I grabbed him and we went out. And we were walking back and we were, very shaking. No one, it was like morning walk time. No one did anything as we were flailing in the water. And he looked at me and said, "I didn't think of Krishna once." And I said, "I'm still not thinking about Krishna." And then
we cleaned up, we went into Prabhupada's room, and he said, how are you? Everything all right? Yes, Prabhupada, that was that.
Wow.
But, so it was a very, it was a life or death situation, and but it worked out. Yeah.
Thank you. Amazing story. I just want to say, we could go the whole, rest of the time on this, but, recently we had all these shootings in the States at festivals, and there was one at a festival, one at a mall, and one somewhere else, all in 48 hours of time or something. And what you find is that most people run just to get out and get safe, it's the self-preservation. And then there are those people who just are automatically willing to sacrifice their own life and shield other people from getting killed. They'll jump in front of them, they'll push them to the side. And there were people who died, they got killed as they were protecting and shielding other people. So they're, they're heroes in one sense. So everybody has a different way of responding to a situation like that. Yes? Wait a minute.
Can I add my response to the mix?
Yes.
So I see it's a good question, but I see it above and beyond contribution, because I see the sense of duty, coming into play, because if you're a pilot, I think if you don't do that, there will be legal implications. So there are situations where no matter regardless of your devotional level, you have to save others before you save your life. So I see that as beyond contribution, because in my understanding, contribution is something voluntary that you do.
Yeah.
So, but it's not like life or death situation.
Yeah, no, we're veering off the subject a little bit, definitely. I don't know how much longer we're going to veer, but should we get back on target? Okay. But that was an amazing story. Thank you, really. Okay, so, right. Okay, so positive ways to contribute, and I think I read them all, and any questions or comments, or we can carry on. Okay, so we have covered the 6 human needs. Number 1, somebody can say what it is.
Security.
Number 2. 3.
Significance.
4.
Love and connection.
5.
Growth.
Yeah, and contribution. Excellent. I didn't say the negative ways. Oopsie. Okay. So negative ways. This is important, actually, because how you could think, what's a negative way to contribute? So destroying others who you think are wrong or immoral. Getting another employee fired, like you think you're doing the right thing. Giving advice to someone who has not asked for it. How many of us have done that? So those are a few examples, but there are ways that we think in our own belief system that we're trying to make something better, but we're actually not. Make sense? Yes?
Good question.
We have a question over here.
Just wanted to ask, those negative ways at fulfilling it, are they considered as bad habits, or?
Bad judgment.
Yeah. Bad judgment. That sounds good. I mean, somebody could have a habit of just, I think a lot of us have this habit. We just tell people, we just give our unsolicited advice. When someone comes to us with a problem, we just, even if they don't want our advice, we give it. It's a very common practice. But, so I don't know if you would call it a habit, but in a way, a kind of habit or poor judgment. Getting someone fired, let's say, or destroying someone, you could think of you could say that stems from envy. Wanting to get them lower so you can go higher. I don't know if you'd call them a habit, but they come from dark, unhealthy places. The longing, the motivation, the intention.
So the positive way can still be motivated in a person who is are not practicing the negative ways of fulfilling the needs, it's still kind of, it's an option for them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Welcome. Okay. So I'm going to read this. I mentioned it yesterday, but I'll just read this. Needs and fulfillment. The first four needs, certainty, variety, love, and significance, are essential for human survival. They are the fundamental needs of the personality. Everyone must feel that they have met them on some level. The last two needs, growth and contribution, are essential to human fulfillment. They are the needs of the spirit. When our needs for love, growth, and contribution are satisfied, they tend to encompass all our other needs. When we focus on something beyond ourselves, most of our problems and sources of pain become less significant. Contribution is the human need that effectively regulates your other 5 needs. If you are focused on contributing to others, you have the certainty of being able to contribute. There is always a way. You have the variety. Contribution is highly interactive. You have significance because you know that you are helping others and improving their lives. The spiritual bond created when you help others gives you a deep sense of connection, and you grow by creatively helping others. So I think everyone here can attest to that. Okay, I'm going to go on. Okay, so now we're going to get to do some personal work, and I hope everybody's up for it. I have a bunch of pens and a bunch of paper, and I'm sure some of you have your own pens and paper. I know there's always a few people in the crowd that don't want to do it, but I'm hoping everybody here's up for it. Okay, so most of us focus primarily on 2 of the 6 needs. These 2 prevail over all others and become the primary driving force in our lives. These 2 needs are experienced so intensely that we will do almost anything to satisfy them. Valuing our needs. Everybody needs to fulfill all 6 needs, but we don't value them equally. So if you value certainty at the top of your list, then everything in your life is about certainty first. If you value uncertainty, you'll have a very different life. Whatever you value at the top of your list tilts you in a different direction, and direction equals destination and destiny. 2 people can value the same need at the top of their list. For example, both want significance, but the difference is in how they meet that need. For example, a fireman and the infamous Osama bin Laden. Prioritizing your needs. The way we prioritize our needs is not out of our control. If you are unhappy in a significant area of your life, it's time to reflect on what your 2 most important human needs really are. You might then realize that the way you currently prioritize your needs is not conducive to your well-being or happiness. For example, you might have certainty at the top of your list, and you might think that because you have a great deal of uncertainty, for instance financially, certainty has to be at the top. But this is not necessarily the case. Many people live with great uncertainty, and yet they make love and connection their first priority. You can do that too. You can choose, for example, to put love or contribution at the top of your list, and you can decide to let love flow from you no matter how little certainty there is in your life. So in other words, sometimes our top 1 or top 2 are needs that are just not really available to us in abundance at this particular point in our life. Yesterday we talked about life phases, and different needs will be more important to you at different phases of your life. So you might find yourself in a phase where you this is a great example with certainty, but you just have a lot of uncertainty. So that's going to cause you to be in anxiety and want certainty, which is just not available to you in abundance. So instead of living and sort of being chained and bound by trying to fill that need that's just not really available to you so much, you can shift your prioritizing of your needs. And in obviously using growth and contribution and love as your guiding force, and if you focus in on those and bring certainty, for example, down, then everything changes and you meet your certainty in other ways. And then the anxiety isn't there anymore, and then you get much more of what you need. Does that make sense? So that's clear for everybody? I don't see that many heads nodding. Just nod your head. Or if it's not, just go like that. Okay, some people aren't doing either. It's all right, it'll become clear. Okay, so what we're going to do now, all right, so if you would like to do this exercise and you need a pen and a paper, we'll pass these around. If you have your own pen and paper, pull them out. And this is what I'm going to ask you to do alone for a couple of minutes, and then you can partner up with someone and just have a discussion about it. So I'm basically asking you to think about this, and it does take some thought. What are your top 2 needs of the 6 needs? I'll put them back. And are they serving you well? Are you able to meet those needs? Are you finding yourself coming up against obstacles? And what are the obstacles? And can you change your priorities? And that would be the discussion part. You could actually discuss this with your partner and almost brainstorm about it. Because it's not something that's so super intellectual. It's something that actually has to come from a deeper place. You have to access a place in yourself where you can be reflective, honest, vulnerable, and just see really where you're at. So I'm going to go back. You don't have to share. You can just do it on your own too. But I would love it if everybody could do it. Even if you don't want to do it on paper, think in your mind, you know, what are your top 2 needs? Maybe your top 2 needs are growth and contribution, and you're all set. And you're able to give, and you feel really fulfilled. That would be really important to share with people too. I think for people who have achieved that or are in that space in their life, that's very valuable for others to know. Okay, so these are good realizations to have, that your needs are not exact. Either they're not being fulfilled, so the next step would be to think of positive ways to fulfill them. And then if you're not feeling like they're they're the right needs, and you'd like to bring contribution and growth higher into your priorities, then you think of ways to bring that, and then the other needs will get met. So it's really this little seminar is just really bringing awareness. I don't think you're going to necessarily solve any issues right now, but it's about bringing awareness to where you're at in terms of these needs and how you can reprioritize them and absolutely bring growth and contribution more into the front of where you're at, and everything else will get taken care of. And we are going to hear from this one more Mataji. Please bring the microphone over. Thank you.
I think the answer was already made for me, because in my job we go through this exercise every year, at the end of the fiscal year. So my manager would always tell me my style. So I'm a planner. So obviously I like to have some certainty and security so I can plan ahead of time, and I'm constantly looking for opportunities to grow and learn. So the answer was already there for me, and I relate to that. The thing that was striking is related to the last answer is contribution. I feel like a lot of what I do is duty. So it's really, do I contribute or do I have to do it? So this is when I said that earlier, I'm still struggling to draw the line between the duty and the contribution. I don't feel like I'm contributing a lot, but I do a lot of stuff out of duty.
Okay.
Not sure if it's a priority or not.
Yeah. So that's a wonderful thing. You can now go home after this and start. See, the other aspect of the workshop that we don't have time for is I have this whole exercise I do with people with life zones, and they basically break down all the different aspects of their lives into zones, and they see what zones are actually meeting their needs and what zones are actually sucking out their needs, and they prioritize every aspect of their life. And for you, it would be coming up with more ways that bring you joy that you can contribute, because ultimately it's joy that motivates us. You know, I mean, you do your duty because you have to, but joy will bring it to a whole nother level. So yeah. So I just want to do one more. I just want to say that I worked with a partner, and I feel like that was an amazing, because he came up with his top two is growth and love and connection, and he's feeling so nourished and so abundant in his growth, and he's at the perfect phase of life right now because he's young, he's single, and like that's the perfect time to be really immersed in growth. Not that you shouldn't be later, but it just makes sense. It makes perfect life phase sense. And then the other was love and connection, and he realized that he was engaging in love and connection with people in a very unhealthy way. And so he set up these barriers and boundaries so that he couldn't have love and connection anymore, but he desires that. So we talked just quickly about ways to heal that and ways to improve it and healthy ways to now meet that need for love and connection. So it can be very revealing and interesting and inspiring. So we've got to end because lunch is waiting and I'm sure everyone's hungry. So thanks, it was a pleasure sitting with you these past couple of days. Hope you got something out of this.
Thank you very much, Mother John. Nobody move. Sit.